May I have your attention, please?
Welcome to Real Gaijin, unveiling the real Japan, an American expat's inside look. Now it's time for another story from the Read My Lips series of podcasts. Summarized podcast.
We're live, and it's 10 o'clock at night in Tokyo, and it's, 1 o'clock in the UK. My name is Mark Kennedy. I'm the host of the Real Gaijin AMA Ask Me Anything podcast, and also I'm the publisher of the Real Gaijin Substack. Today we have a special guest who's calling in from the UK. This is Michelle Lyons. Michelle, you want to just say briefly hello?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Okay, great. Well, we'll come back to you in just a second. Michelle reminds me of myself a long time ago because she is a student of the Japanese language, Japanese culture, and yet she hasn't been to Japan yet. She's just planning the last few months before coming for the first time. And actually, for anyone who's listening, I'm sure if you have any suggestions for Michelle, she'd be all very happy to hear what you have to say and where to go and so forth. But I remember when I was much younger, of course, learning Japanese and studying for a whole year before getting to Japan for the first time. And I thought, oh, I'll be just fine. Uh, big culture shock upon actually getting here. But I think you're much more prepared than I am. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. The other thing is just a couple of housekeeping things. This is a Ask Me Anything live session. So if you have any comments, questions for Michelle, please use the chat on your phone or on the PC and put those in, and I'll be monitoring those. Also, we'll get a live the recording of this session out. Give me about 24 hours and I'll get that out, just in case you miss anything or you want to hear about that again. All right, without further ado, welcome, Michelle, to the Real Gaijin AMA podcast. First of all, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
So I'm based in Greater Manchester in England. That's where I've been based my entire life. So uh, for what I'm doing with my job, it's
Oh, yeah.
it's very far for someone who's not well traveled.
Well, yeah, sure. Good. Jump right into that. So you are the founder, you're an entrepreneur. You're the founder of basically an advertising agency, right? Called Point Blank or Point North.
Yeah. So design and strategy.
Design and strategy. Okay, great. And so tell us about the connection to Japan. What got you interested in Japan and Japanese?
So while I was at university, I had a friend there who would go to Japan quite often, and they started to introduce me to the culture, sort of telling me things about it. So I started to watch some anime, became more interested in the um, sort of craftsmanship and the connection to nature. And
Mm.
I guess it just kind of grew from there. I started doing my own research, started to self-study the language. Um,
Self-study the language. Okay. That's not
it's not
easy.
going well.
Oh, well, okay. Well, but so how are you doing that? With you using like Duolingo or something like that? An app to learn?
So I started with uh, various YouTube channels that sort of teach the language in a bit more depth, and I've got a few books. I used to watch the Japanese news live on YouTube just to get a bit of listening practice, but um,
Wow.
yeah, I've put the studying down for a while because I was just struggling a lot with it.
Yeah. That's pretty hard to do by yourself.
Mm.
From a background like ours from the West. However, uh, once you arrive in Japan, it's sink or swim. So you'll have plenty of opportunity once you get here. That's
Yeah.
really exciting. So tell us though about your initiative, Parks in Japan. So what is this all about?
So it's a project that aims to promote and support Japan's 35 national parks, and it aims to tackle the uneven visitor distribution across the parks. So there's one that attracts nearly half of annual visitors, a few more that are very popular, but the majority are relatively unknown, especially to international visitors. And
Oh,
there's just far less interest in those other parks in comparison.
so which one is the one that attracts half of the visitors? That's I must have
Uh,
been there.
Fuji Hakone Izu, probably
Oh,
because of Mount Fuji and the central location.
yes, heard of that. Okay, been there. All right. Well, all right, that makes a lot of sense. And so I live down in the far south in Kyushu. So I think the largest national park near me is Aso-san, so the volcano. That seems to attract a lot of people, but there are 35 parks all over. Are they spread across the whole archipelago of Japan?
Yeah, end to end, so there's uh, a varied set of parks, a lot of different wildlife, different climates across them all.
Mm. And so, all right. And in order to do this, so you're interested in the tourism sector. What specifically are you trying to accomplish by shedding more light on I mean, basically, you're trying to introduce Japanese national park system to foreign visitors to Japan. Is that the main thrust of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so it's trying to draw people out to some of those lesser known parks, but also to spread out where people are going within each park. So they
Oh,
often have a, a kind of, I guess, like a top 10 list of things to do in each one, and those individual spots can be quite crowded. So it's not
mm,
just spreading people out across the whole system, but within each individual place. Um, and I guess for international visitors, the focus is more on that awareness and building up the brand image of Japan's national parks and the familiarity with the names, which many of which are quite long. um,
yeah.
but for domestic visitors as well, because even if they're a little bit more familiar, they don't necessarily know them all either. And a lot of visitors don't actually realize when they're in a national park.
That's interesting you'd say that. Uh, I have noticed that too. It's not as though there's a gate and you enter the park. There are signs, but all of a sudden you're in a park. And they're actually pretty big. Now, as you know, from reading about this, I mean, Japan is an extremely mountainous country. I imagine a lot of these parks are basically they have trails for hiking. Is that more or less the case? Okay. And that's also part of your interest. You're a hiking enthusiast?
Yeah, I guess it's one of the more accessible outdoor activities compared to maybe
Yeah,
water rafting or something.
true. Although you can do that here too. Okay, good. And well, yeah, I mean, the trail mark. I mean, in general, my experience, at least with national parks, and please, for anyone who's listening, feel free to jump in, ask questions or comments, especially if you know a lot about parks and national parks here in Japan. I mean, the trails are marked very clearly, and there are lots of hiking enthusiasts in Japan. They all wear you're going to see this one brand of, of, well, outdoor wear called Mont Bell. I thought it was from Switzerland, not, it's from Osaka. And it's probably one of the most successful companies that makes outdoor wear in Japan. But it seems like everyone has that here. And, but anyway, so, all right. How, wow, where do you even go to find out information? They must have websites, or how do you even find out about where the parks are?
So there's the Ministry of the Environment's website, which has a list of them all and their features and some various details about them. I think Japan National Tourism Organization also has a page on each one. Um, but otherwise, I guess through people's YouTube videos, there's a
Ah,
few research papers as well. Uh, and Google Maps can be good just for finding out information from people who are
sure.
visiting.
Okay. And one thing notice, I mean, I'm from America, as you can tell from the accent. A lot of the national parks in America actually have a gate, and you actually have to pay to get in. And the fees are supposed to go toward maintenance of the park and, of course, conservation efforts. In Japan, I mean, at least the parks I've been to, I think they're free, right? There's no entrance fee, correct?
Yeah, and compared to the US, so the US has a very, um, I guess, a kind of simpler national park system. They all just belong to this one entity, but in Japan, the land is owned by lots of different people. Some of it's privately owned,
Oh,
some of it's publicly owned, and there isn't sort of an official system as such, even though they, in some cases, present the 35 parks as if they're a collection, but from a kind of structural sense, they're not really all associated with each other.
so, I mean, how are they maintained? And I mean, do they have a budget from, I guess, from tax revenues? The only way that they get money then.
I think it's the local agencies, so environmental agencies in the areas, and it is part of the government's tourism budget to help
Mm.
the national parks in various ways. So I would imagine there must be that higher level of budget somewhere, but I guess they all use it in different ways.
Yeah. Well, of course, another thing which, since you're not here yet, you probably have heard about this, but maybe not. Last year, now, right now, we're in the hibernation stage. But have you heard about the bear issue in Japan? Wild bears. It's a major issue. I mean, unfortunately, several people have lost their lives here, but I imagine that the bear population that's coming down from the mountains and entering cities is probably also is something that might have affected attendance, or at least the number of hikers going into the national parks at this point. Have you heard much about that?
Not so much the effect on people visiting, but yeah, I've heard a lot about the bear issue, and it's one of those things that it's just really complicated how to approach it best.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I mean, I wrote an article about this for Real Gaijin not a few months back, and got a very interesting comment from a Canadian hunter who said, "Wow, wouldn't it be great to have some sort of a program for hunters from Canada, in particular, that know what they're doing here, to come and help control the population of bears?" So, uh, yeah, I mean, maybe that's something for you to look into once you arrive. Of course, watch out for bears, but at the same time, learn more about what in the world is being done about it. By the way, curious fact, down where I am on the island of Kyushu, there are no bears anymore. So they were worried about whether a few will swim over, although it's not easy for them to swim that far. But anyway, we're bear free down here. That's an issue. So, all right. Well, tell us more about your work so far. You've been at this project for quite a while. What have you done so far to prepare?
So initially, it was just a lot of research trying to understand all the different aspects of the problem. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. So there's the over tourism aspect, but there's also
Mm,
the rural depopulation and the
mm,
ways that the parks are being promoted kind of separately or with these top 10 list type of things. Um, and then many of them don't have the best souvenir selection just to
mm,
solidify the image of those parks or that are practical or appealing for international visitors. So all of these little problems have then informed the strategy for the project, which is essentially to use engaging product experiences to build interest and awareness in the national parks, whilst also creating a vehicle to generate a source of funding that can then
ah,
be distributed across those parks. So the first product that I'm working on is part of a national parks collectibles brand called
Mm.
Hokkaido, and that first product is called Field Quests. So that's a activity booklet where there's an enamel pin attached. There's one for each national park, and
Mm.
they're a fully illustrated thing. It's not too text heavy, and there's 12 treasures inside for people to find in the park. So things like food or animals, plants, monuments. There's 3 side quests to complete, which involves engaging with local businesses or doing some kind of
Oh.
activity. And all of these things, you earn points for them, which
Mm.
represent the growth of your adventurous spirit. So it's not a kind of uh, sort of like a money related thing. It's just,
Yeah.
I guess, more of a maybe a personal development type of approach to it. And the the treasures and the side quests have sort of different levels of points. So they'll either have 1 to 3 points based on maybe how difficult it is to find or engage with. And the idea with these, it's not just like a regular activity booklet. The content has been curated in a way that kind of avoids those most popular attractions and
Mm.
gives people a choice of what to engage with, but, for lesser known things. Or so with the Nikko one, for example,
Mm.
there's a really popular shrine there, which is included in a way, but it's finding specific details in the
Ah.
shrine.
Ah.
So it just finds other ways for people to engage with popular things or just different things entirely. And then there's the collectability aspect of the whole product range.
Mm.
So
Mm.
the idea is that people will want to kind of collect all of the field quests, which would involve visiting each national park in the end.
Well, there are all sorts of examples similar to that, where like pilgrimages here in Japan. I can imagine you'd find quite a number of people that would be up to the challenge and would really look forward to it. Now, speaking of people, how are you interacting with other hikers that are interested in national parks in Japan? Have you been able to reach out and connect with anybody like that so far?
I do get quite a lot of people commenting on LinkedIn posts related to the project, so
Okay,
I've made quite a few connections that way.
good.
So people who maybe live locally within or close to a national park that have given me certain insights that I wouldn't have known. So that's been really useful.
That is terrific. So you're following up with these people and you're preparing to come convention during the month of May. Is that right?
Yeah, so that will be my first trip to Japan.
Well, that's great. Well, we're looking forward to having you here. May is one of the best times of the year to be in Japan, particularly in the middle part of the country. So you're in luck, and it would be a great time to go to a national park. Got it. Hey, by the way, we have a number of people that are tuning in here. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. We do have one comment here. Compassion is considered a little league of power. All right. Well, I'd agree with that. Good. But if you have any questions for Michelle, or suggestions, let us know. You mentioned a couple of things briefly a second ago, talking about, like, for example, the issue of the depopulation of the countryside. And also, I wanted to get into the whole concept of what is regenerative tourism. So maybe you could touch a little bit about on those two topics.
Yeah, so the rural depopulation is generally an issue from the lack of tourists in certain places, the lack of expenditure in local businesses. So there's certain areas of certain parks that are just extremely quiet most of the year, and so it's not really viable for people to live there anymore. They might be moving into the city, but also it could mean uh, sort of cultural traditions are being lost because they just can't afford
Mhm.
to kind of maintain them. So that's one of the things I want to address with the funding that I generate is trying to not only make living in these lesser known places more sustainable and bringing in more money to them, but also trying to maybe encourage young people living in the city to consider careers in rural areas. But that, of course, depends on first making that a possibility to
Yeah.
for careers to exist in rural areas. And what was the second part of the question?
Well, you told me before we got started here that a big focus for you is this concept of regenerative tourism. So, what exactly is that?
So essentially, it's structuring tourism in a way that means a place is better off for having visitors than it was without it, or better off than it previously was with however those visitors were being managed. So you want
So, all
to,
right. So, of course, what's in the news media is probably mostly related to the first park that you talked about around Fuji-san and Hakone, which is now suffering from over tourism. So, I
Mhm.
imagine that's going too far in one direction.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more of a balance, but I see. So it's like redistributing resources so that the neglected areas get a little bit more love essentially, and the people that are focused on going to visit these places leave the area better off than when they found it. Is that the general idea?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's not just to just bring in tourists to a place, it's trying to shape their behavior and where they're
Mm,
actually going once they're there.
okay, good. And maybe we should ask also, you're also an existing, I mean, enthusiast of hiking activities in the UK. Uh, like, how are national parks managed in the UK? Is it similar or different from what you found so far in Japan?
I haven't looked so much into how the UK's parks are structured, but I think maybe they are a little bit more similar to the US in that they're maybe all run together. I could think we're probably a smaller country than Japan.
Yeah, right. So more compact. Well, that would be interesting to learn about that. I mean, the whole idea of regenerative tourism came from the UK, right? I believe
I
it
don't,
did.
I don't know. I,
Okay.
wherever it came from, it's a useful concept.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's, I mean, it's right up the alley of what people here in Japan would be interested in, I can imagine. That's good. So how, like, for example, when you get here, are you going to try and go visit with any, like the government ministers or at least an office that oversees the national parks? Is that on your agenda too?
It's been a challenge so far to make those connections with people
Ah,
in the Ministry of the Environment. I do have connections with people who are maybe close to them though, so I
mhm.
am hoping to have some useful meetings while I'm there.
Yeah, that would be good. And maybe there's a way to involve your own embassy from the UK to make the connection to help you at least get put in touch with the right people. That would be a good thing to do. Hmm, good. Um, all right. Well, that is great. And I guess, yeah, Japan is still, I read the other day, absolutely committed. The government is committed to this long term goal of attracting 60 million foreign visitors every year. Right now, it's somewhere around 40, a little bit more than 40 million, which is stressing the system because, as you mentioned, they're not distributed equally. I mean, everyone goes to Tokyo and Kyoto, the big cities, but also, as you mentioned, as it relates to parks, the Fujisan area. So in the summertime, when Fujisan's available to be climbed, it can get overwhelming. And now there are restrictions in place, apparently, and
Yeah.
fees. Okay. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the other parks, other than the ones that I visited before, I'm not familiar with probably the vast majority of them. Maybe I could name five, if that, that I've been to. Huh. Fascinating topic. And so, are you going to also study a little bit of Japanese intensively during this 2 week period?
I think I would probably do it before, uh,
Yeah, yeah,
in
gonna need
preparation
it.
for the trip.
Yeah, okay. Well, luckily, you'll find probably quite a number of people that can communicate with you in English too, that are passionate about the park system. Good, good. Uh, well, I'm curious to know how this turns out. You'll have to certainly write about this, and I'm sure that's part of this. Also, it's amazing the amount of work that you've done to prepare. You started 2 years ago, essentially, doing all this?
Yeah, about 3 years ago, so
3 years ago.
it it's been a long time.
Yeah, this is a major project. I mean, it's amazing that you learned so much about all these parks and you've done so much preparation work before actually getting here. And I'm sure, I mean, there can be some things that will surprise you, but what are you most anticipating during this visit?
I think just the general culture shock, um,
Mm,
'cause because I've hardly traveled anywhere, so I only flew for the first time when I was 25, and I'm
okay.
27 now, and the furthest I've been is Switzerland, so I
Oh,
think it would
nice.
just be a very overwhelming but positive experience to just see a place that's so completely different from anything I've seen before.
Oh, yes. Well, that Japan, you could check all the boxes on that one. It's very different from the Western cultures. And, but curiously, you'll notice several things that are similar and have connections to your own country, like particularly if you use trains to get around. A lot of the original train system dates back from the UK. Oh, it wasn't the UK at the time, the Great Britain, but uh, that's good. And so to get around all these parks, the general idea is to use trains or maybe take buses. Is that the idea? And where are you planning to visit, by the way?
So yeah, I'll probably use the trains, probably some buses, but I'll be sticking to national parks that are a bit more central. So places
Hmm.
like Nikko, maybe you say Shima, I think it's close.
Mhm.
Um, Fuji Hakone Izu, of course, is
Mhm.
the most central. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, there's a few options in different directions that I could at least get into the edges of.
Yeah. Well, for any of our listeners that are listening right now or tune in later, certainly if you have any questions or suggestions for where Michelle should go, I mean, obviously, budget and timing is limited, but there are all sorts of good options. And during the month of May, I mean, the further north that you go might be a little cooler, but later on, if you come back in the summertime, Hokkaido, I imagine, has lots of great national parks to go to.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, here we go. We have a comment. I hope you can visit Ito City in Izu, where we have a wonderful community here. That's a great suggestion. It's easy to get to from Tokyo. And yeah, please tell us more about, to the listener here, a national park system in Izu. I'm not sure so far down in the southern part of Izu if that's still part of a national park, but it's a beautiful area and it's not too far from Mount Fuji and Hakone, of course, a little bit further south. Good suggestion. Thank you. And what are you trying? I mean, at the end of this 2 week trip, first trip, what are you trying to take away with you? What would be a successful goal for you at the end of this 2 weeks?
Firstly, is just making it there, because
Okay,
it's a
start with basics.
a very big journey. um, but I think I'm just trying to familiarize myself with the place a little bit. Um, Try and get into some of those national parks. But also is making that first trip not just a sort of cookie cutter itinerary. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm not necessarily looking to do the whole golden route thing. So I'm really keen to get out into some of the smaller neighborhoods outside of the central city locations. And yeah, I guess just get more of a real feel for Japan than uh, a typical tourist experience.
That's great. Good. By the way, the listener who suggested going to Ito City in Izu, in the Izu Peninsula, further south from Mount Fuji, did answer. Do we have Jogasaki Kaigan, or the coast, is part of a national park. That is a fantastic suggestion, particularly because it's so accessible from central Tokyo. You can get there in several hours by train or by car, but train is probably easier, and there's a beautiful route that goes out that way. The coast is gorgeous. I've been there many times. Lots of hot springs too, which is another benefit of going out in the countryside of Japan. And the history, of course. Excellent. Well, that's good. And so once you have this initial experience, uh, you're going to go back to the UK, and then what are you going to do? I mean, maybe you don't know yet because you haven't been here, but what's the general plan after you return?
So I'm hoping to launch the field quests, well, the first 10 field quests on Kickstarter this summer. So I guess I'll
Ah,
probably be diving into that. And then I would love to make future trips to Japan that are a little bit more research based. So longer
sure.
trips where I can spend more time actually on the ground in the national parks. Uh, but of course, this is all, uh, it's a lot of, of money to do all that traveling. So
Sure.
uh, I think there's an element of getting the project off the ground before I can really find those opportunities to do those longer research trips.
I understand. Well, plus you're going to learn a lot of new information once you get here, but that is terrific that you have some sense of where this is heading. We have a question. From a terrific supporter here of the podcast. Question: are the field quests for both kids and adults? And do you need anybody to take your pocket adventures on a test drive?
So it's for both kids and adults. It's designed to sort of spark that childlike joy in everyone without being childish, so everyone can
Okay.
enjoy it. um, and yeah, definitely, I would love to have people try it out early on. It always helps to get those on the ground insights for how it actually feels to use in person. And if there's anything in there that I've added that makes no sense.
Yeah, that's great. And it's also great that you're open to suggestions like that. Well, I think that answers the question. It sounds like the person that suggested that question might be willing to volunteer or have access to people that might be interested. So, yes, this is a strong supporter of somebody else that I interviewed a few weeks ago. So, thank you for that question. Please ask more questions. Anyone that's online, we have a number of people listening in, and also suggestions as to where to go and so forth. That's good. Now, by the way, you're one of the primary beneficiaries of these materials would be other foreign visitors that are going to be accessing the information in English. Is that the general idea?
Yeah, so the those projects will all be in English and targeting international visitors from UK, North America, and Australia primarily,
Hmm,
as they all have their own strong associations with national parks. But of course,
nice.
any English speaker could use them. but I also want to have them translated into Japanese in the future and also localize the content. So, for example, I think in one of the field quests, I might have included a Torii gate, but for a Japanese person, they don't really need to learn about that. They already know what it is. It's not necessarily a standout feature for them. So it's just tweaking the content for the different audiences.
Okay, that sounds great. So, certainly anyone who is able to help with the language and translations, that would be something else that would be a great benefit to Michelle. That's good to know. And are you also, I mean, these materials, this is printed materials primarily, or are you going to also have online resources or
So it's
both?
all printed. It's all printed. I initially was going to have a supplementary download that would have the information for each of the treasures and side quests, but I decided just to make that a printout that will be inside the field quest because I really want this to be sort of analog, screen-free experience to really keep
Mm.
people present in the parks and, you know, not scrolling on their phone. It's just not the experience that I want to create for people.
Well, yeah, I guess for multiple reasons that makes sense. So certainly, the main reason is to experience nature, as you mentioned, but also, as we were talking before we got started here, the reception in national parks can be spotty. And like, for example, I know there's a great app called, I think it's YAMAP, is it? YAMAP? And you can download trail maps in advance if you don't want to have a printout version for actually navigating through the park. But yeah, that's because sometimes you can't get a signal in the middle of some of these places. Well, anyway, that's not an issue if it's a printout. Very good. Maybe back on that question about the, is the resource with quest guides for adults and also children, are these separate materials for adults and children, or are they kind of combined?
So it's the same product. It's just that it could
Oh, okay.
be used by either, and because it's mostly just illustrated, and then with the information on the insert, it just makes it super easy for anyone to use.
Got it. Got it. Good. Yeah. Well, certainly the suggestion to have it tested is a good one. So you might want to look for volunteers that are of many different ages, I suppose, to test it out and see what kind of feedback that you get. Good. And so, how else are you planning to reach out to people for help? I mean, we talked about the potential government connection. What I mean, like, are friends of the parks or something? Is there some organization that you can reach out to or have already reached out to make some contacts?
I think it's just finding people individually. So unfortunately, I don't think there's a dedicated community. But through sharing the project persistently online, I've been able
Mhm.
to build up those connections.
Okay, good. By the way, I am not familiar with this other than in the area that I live right now, but there is a visitor center in called Chojabaru Visitor Center, which is on the periphery of the Aso Park down in Kyushu. They have a lot of resources, but right now almost nothing is in English. But do other like national parks have these resource centers, this physical place that you could go before you get started on hiking tours and so forth? Or is this unusual?
Yeah, so the visitor centres are a pretty standard thing across all of the national parks, and some of
Okay.
them might even have up to three of them in different places as the parks are
Oh,
so big. So,
okay.
yeah, there's definitely plenty of information points.
I got it. So obviously, those would be good spots for you to go in, like in Nikko and the other areas in the central part of the country. Got it. And I assume that the use of national parks, or when people actually go visit, it's kind of limited to by the season, or they visit it all year round.
So it varies. There's some that are open year round, and then certain places where they might get really heavy snowfall, they'll be closed
Mm.
over the winter months. Um, but yeah, generally there's plenty of time to access them. But that's another thing I'm trying to tackle is incentivizing people to visit in any season as opposed to saying, here's the peak season, but I guess these others are okay. You want them to think that any time of year is a good time to have a great experience there.
Yeah. Well, as you also probably know, in general, people in Japan take time off all at once. So the peak time, well, if you're going to be here in May, you're going to experience that during the Golden Week holidays, series of public holidays that are strung together. Sometimes people tack on a few extra days here and there on either end. That does probably put a lot of pressure on the local resources. On the other hand, like for example, the suggestion that came from the listener who is inviting you to go to Izu in the Jogasaki Kaigan or coastline of park, that is so easily accessed by train from Tokyo that you could easily make, I mean, technically, could make a day trip out of that from central Tokyo, although it would be better to stay overnight for a night or two. Uh, so that probably has a bearing on how often people can go visit. Got it. And all right, good. So let's see. What else can we do for you? What kind of resources or connections are you looking for from the listeners online? Is there anything that we can do to help in particular?
I think it would be really beneficial to be able to trial the products in various national parks or at least be able to speak to people who know the areas well. Um,
Mhm.
so, for example, with uh, the Nikko Field Quest, I shared the content for that with someone who works in the park, and they said, "Oh yeah, this is all great, but but what's that bird that I'd included on the list?" And they said, "Oh, that's kind of just like a pigeon here in Japan." And obviously, I didn't know that. I just thought, "Oh, this is an interesting bird for people to find." So there's
Oh,
those little insights that are really useful to know before the product goes live. um, so
oh,
yeah, just
so in other words, suggestions for what to include in the field quest guides.
yeah. So I've already got the content ready. It's just doing those final checks to make sure there isn't some really important context that I'm missing.
Okay.
Um, but on a bigger scale for the future, I would love to partner with some of the airlines in Japan to do
Mm.
like a sort of in-flight experience and try and promote the national parks as people are on their way there. Um, so yeah, there's many things. Another one is partnering with companies to do custom field quests as corporate gifts,
Mm.
where they'll
Ah,
it's like their own little adventure for their employees to try and encourage them out into nature when they've got some time off. So if there's lots of avenues for collaboration with the project.
that sounds like a great opportunity. And yeah, maybe if anyone has a connection to that outdoor wear company called Montbell from Osaka, that would be a really good resource. Huh. All right, those are good suggestions. And by the way, if you're going to be staying in Tokyo, Montbell has a huge branch near Ueno, so you can go check that out too. That'd be a good one. Good. Well, this is interesting, and thank you for joining us. Please, if we have any more questions or comments, please put them in the chat. We'd be glad to reach them. just check the time. We're already 45 minutes into this, so that's great. Um, well, what else are you looking forward to in particular about Japan?
I would really like to find some just sort of quiet shrines. Maybe they were a little bit forgotten, hidden in the trees. Um, just going down random alleyways, back streets that look quiet. I really just want to explore the place as opposed to, having a list of things I want to check off.
Hmm, that's a
Um,
good approach.
yeah, it's just going to be a total adventure, I think, and I don't want to overplan that.
Yeah, that's good. But a little bit of planning though. I mean, you're going to be based out of Tokyo, but then also visit. You mentioned several times Nikko, but are you also going to try and head down to Kyoto too, or not this trip?
Tokyo will be a definite base for several days, potentially Kyoto as well. Um, but I'm not totally sure yet. I'm thinking I could always travel in a different direction from Tokyo and spend time in a different city and see what's around there, as I'm wanting to do various day trips out of whichever city I'm based in. So I guess I feel like I see so much of Kyoto online. I almost feel like I've seen it all, which obviously I'm sure I haven't. Um,
Yeah.
I just really want to see a different side of Japan.
Okay. Well, I mean, my personal perspective is, of course, Kyoto is a fantastic place, and you can spend a lot of time there. Many foreign people like to live there too. However, if you're looking for the poster child of over tourism right now, unfortunately, Kyoto is kind of suffering from that. So yeah, and it sounds like you're going to make multiple visits to Japan. So there's no urgent requirement to go there first. Uh, well, you've already gotten one great suggestion, and it sounds like you should follow up with the person that asked that question or has made the suggestion to visit Izu, particularly since it's such a beautiful place and so easy to get to from central Tokyo. So you could go check that out, and maybe they'd even take you around a little bit. That would be great. Good. All right. Well, we might need to check in with you later on in the year and find out how it's going. And in the meantime, we'll follow you here. Uh, by the way, are you going to be documenting your travel? And if so, where? Where can we find out more information about the Parks in Japan project?
So LinkedIn is the place that I'm most active. I share regular updates on there, but I
Sure.
also have a Parks and Japan Instagram page, which is just a little bit more of the, I guess, the creative side of things. So those are the main places.
Okay, great. And by the way, our listener who has shared the information, Martin here from Kurashi News in Japan. Thank you for this is the person that suggested come visit in Izu. Uh, Maybe you can follow up with Martin afterwards. And Martin, maybe just reach out to the LinkedIn contact information that I included in the original uh, invitation. So you can reach out directly to Michelle. I'll also put that in the write up from today at some point when we get this out by tomorrow. Great. Well, Michelle, thank you very much. And for everyone that's joined us tonight, Japan time, and in the afternoon in Europe, thank you very much. Michelle, please leave everyone with a few final thoughts for somebody that's about to go visit Japan.
Consider visiting one of the central national parks. There's at least 10 that are very close. Uh, Probably 2 hours on the train. So consider somewhere beyond the Golden Route.
Good advice. Excellent. That is great. All right. Well, with that, we will leave you and stay in touch. I'll be following you, of course, on the parks and section on LinkedIn, and we'll keep tabs of how you're doing with your projects. So good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
お疲れ様でした。
Thanks for watching and or listening to another story from the Read My Lips series of podcasts on Real Gaijin. Tell us what you think and be sure to tune in again next time.